Vladimir, you predicted a bromance, a grand bargain, a deal between Trump, at the time the president-elect, at the end of last year, and Putin. Where are we now in this? Would you say that we're in the safe area already? It's not going to happen? Can it still happen? What would be the parameters?
Roland, I will speak briefly about three things. First, you asked about Trump and the US-Russia dimension. Second, I wanted to say a few words about Europe and its role as I see it as the keeper of the Western values in the time when US leadership is questionably going to defend them. And second, few words about the future Russia's role and how the West should view this, because I think there's been only a black and white approach to this for a while. People are hoping that someday Putin goes and is going to be replaced by something better and Russia will harmonize itself with everybody. It's a bit more complicated than that. On Trump, I think we got to look at the fundamentals, not certain statements that we hear from people in Washington trying to calm down the situation, and not to the quiet Trump-Russia behavior so far, but the fundamentals. The fundamentals are, I would say, two things. First, Trump and Putin are both very opportunistic leaders. Trump was never known to defend any values of the Western world. In fact, he openly dismissed some of them as unnecessary and standing in the way of well-being of the American people. Another dimension is that if you take a look at what he says, at his speeches, his tweets, whatever, you don't find much about freedom and democracy. In fact, you barely find anything. You can hear hundreds of times, thousands of times the word deal to be pronounced, which is a language that is very comfortable for Putin. Putin is a clear opportunist. He loves deals. He loves bargains. He loves all this, hidden undercover negotiations, agendas, and so on. So I think, given all these fundamentals of the two leaders, I think it's a well-deserved expectation that they might come together. For instance, we, the free people of Russia, we were appalled by the fact that Trump said nothing about the brutal behavior of police during Sunday's protests in Moscow. Roland was right. I barely escaped being detained myself, and I'm glad that I was lucky to make it to come here. But I was at the heart of this protest at the Pushkin Square in Moscow. It was really tough. I'm very grateful for EPP President Joseph Daul, who made strong comments on these events in Moscow. But Trump or any other senior leader from Washington, nothing. We only heard a statement from an acting spokesman for the State Department, who is a leftover from Obama administration. Look, we were not born yesterday. I'm a former bureaucrat myself. We know exactly what this means, given the fact that Trump, neither during his campaign nor in 2 months of his presidency, said anything about human rights in Russia, about the brutal dictatorship that we have. We understand completely what this means. And second important factor is that you can clearly see that Trump is about to embark on many important global conflicts. With Mexico, with NAFTA, with China, there's clearly a strain with the European Union. We're not even talking Middle East, Iran, and all that stuff, because there are multiple, right? Now, if you would try to make up a list of global players with whom he does not have a prerequisite for a conflict, and he has nothing to fight about, Putin is on top of the list. What's so negative between them? Ukraine, Trump clearly doesn't care much about Ukraine. Human rights in Russia, I already told you so. So, of course, he's a bit toned down now by all these investigations about collusion with Russia going on in Washington. They also never met yet. They will, and after this we will be able to judge. But I think the fundamental prerequisites are there, and Trump as a potential Western leader who might be interested into entering this hidden bargain with Putin, it's a real danger. You should not dismiss it based on some statements made by some secondary spokesperson or some congressman, with all due respect, right? You should really look at the fundamentals. Fundamentals do not look good.